United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. May I welcome Mike Reddick. Please take a seat, and they're going to start serving your food now. And please enjoy it while we continue our remarks. I would like to introduce you to Mike Reddick, the chairman of our board and the general manager of HEB Gulfgate, to say a few words.
Good morning, folks. I've been involved in a lot of political campaigns as a volunteer, and I really appreciate how much hard work these folks who are with me have volunteered to do prior to being elected to the office of Mayor of Houston. Thank you so much for joining us today, folks, for this important discussion. Can I have all past and current board members, ambassadors, and committee members please stand and be recognized? It is an honor to work with you to help promote and sustain business expansion, economic and workforce development in the East End. As you enjoy your meal, I wanted to introduce you to our platinum sponsor to this event, of whom we are so grateful, Mr. Raymond Gutierrez.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Ray Gutierrez. I'm a principal of a company called Houston Construction Services, a design-build construction company. I wanted to take a moment and tell you about my company. We provide complete construction services from the ground up, of renovations of hospitals, behavioral facilities, industrial, and to complex industrial projects, along with semiconductor projects. Yes, this is my commercial. This is how we network. I am always looking for more business, building opportunities. How about that? That's what we do. That's what the chamber's all about. Here we go. I have been involved with the City of Houston and Harris County for 24 plus years. I was a baby. It's been a pleasure to be here today and sponsor this incredible event. I personally come to an understanding of what a unique and powerful organization the East End Chamber of Commerce is. As this is a backdrop to the Port of Houston, one of our economic engines. Once again, welcome to all that have decided to join us for this East End Chamber of Commerce 2023 Mayoral event. Thank you all for coming. We look forward to hearing from their vision for the future, taking Houston to on to greater. As you can see, I brought a few friends. I also want to give a shout out to an organization called the National Association of Minority Contractors. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Today would not be possible without sponsors like you, so thank you so much. I also wanted to give thanks to our gold sponsors, Brown and Caldwell, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business, and San Jacinto College. We also wanted to thank our centerpiece sponsor, Union Pacific. Yes. And we wanted to thank our printing sponsor, which is a female-owned business, Bayside Printing. A complete list of all of our sponsors, including our silver sponsors and our booth sponsors, which will close at 1:30, are listed in your program. Please make sure that you take your program with you, and remember to support those companies who are helping us put on programs like this. People sometimes think the East End Chamber and the East End District are the same organizations, but we are separate organizations, each doing great things. And I wanted to give a special thanks to Veronica Chapa-Korczynski. Can you please stand, Veronica? She is the president of the East End District, and our organizations are partners in progress, and we appreciate all you do for the East End and the greater Houston community. And right now, we have a lot of elected officials and appointed positions. Can you please all stand, all of our elected and appointed position members, men and women, please stand and let us recognize you and thank you for your service. We also have Dr. Lauren Blanchard, the University of Houston Downtown President, and Dr. Brenda Hellier, the Chancellor of San Jacinto College. It's very important that they're here and that they have their tables here because workforce development and partnerships like theirs are very important to our region. And with that being said, I think you may have noticed some very handsome and beautiful young people in the audience today. Those are students from Beta Academy. Can I thank Carl, thank you very much, from Glow CPAs, and all these students. Can you guys please stand, just so that we can recognize you? This is our future. This could be one of our future mayor candidates. And thank you so much, everyone. I encourage them to network with everyone, so if you want to network with them, come and speak with them afterwards. But it's because we appreciate Carl wanting to make sure that they knew the political process, and that's why he sponsored these students to come here today. So thank you all very much. And now it's my honor to introduce you to our moderator, Daniella Guzman, a two-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, a native Houstonian, and the news anchor at KPRC Channel 2. Welcome, Daniella. Our timekeeper is right here, everyone.
Thank you, Francis. Hello, everybody. How are you? It's the first time I don't have to say good evening. I can actually say good morning. Is it still morning? All right, we're almost there, right? Thank you so much for coming. It is an honor for me to be here. Just want to let you know we are streaming this on KPRC 2+. If you want to let someone know that they're watching. Just, it's so important that you're here. And it just tells these candidates and it tells us that you care about the great city of Houston and that you care about our community here in East End. You can clap. We do have a pretty awesome city, don't we? So we want to hear from these candidates and what they're going to bring to our city, to our community, to our families, and our businesses. So there are some rules, and our candidates are going to have 1 minute to answer these questions, and then, just like soccer, there are yellow cards and red cards, but they're not, as we would normally see them. We have a timekeeper here, and so when you see that yellow card, that means you have about 15 seconds to wrap up. When you see that red card, that means wrap it up pretty quickly, or my producer would get in your ear and get very upset with you, as they do with us sometimes when we go over. Okay, as you enjoy your lunch, which by the way looks fantastic, so does that cheesecake, we're going to get started. Let's start by introducing our candidates. Candidates, you have 1 minute to introduce yourself and for any opening statements, and we're going to start from this side of the table. Go ahead, Mr. Graves.
First of all, let me thank the Distinguished Chamber and everyone for being here today. My name is Robert Daniella. I'm representing District I, which is the East part of District I. My parents arrived from Mexico as young teenagers, escaping the Mexican Revolution with their families to Magnolia Park back in the early 1920s. They got married, they raised seven children. I'm the youngest of the 7. I was born, raised, and I still live in the East End. I'm proud to have represented District I for the last 10 years with 2 mayors. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. We have a beautiful, restored Gus Wortham golf course, the oldest 18-hole golf course in the state. It didn't cost the city $1, but it's still our green space. We have the first botanic garden here in District I. Again, it didn't cost the city a dime. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Within the past 10 years, we either acquired or purchased over 300 acres for District I, not just benefiting the residents of District I, but the entire city of Houston. So once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Okay, my name is Gilbert Garcia. I'm a native of Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm a product of public schools. My first big break is I went to Yale. I'm first generation college. My second big break is I had a summer internship that took me to Wall Street, which got me exposed to this industry, and I've been in it ever since. After 5 years on Wall Street, after my career at Yale University, I returned to Texas, returned home. In 1990, I've been in the money management industry this entire time. I'm married. I have 4 children. My children are my life. I have coached 40 seasons of youth soccer. I've been both the colt. I've done everything for my kids because my father worked and he really wasn't there for me and my siblings. And so I wanted to break the mold. I'm the managing partner at the largest Hispanic-owned money management firm in the country and one of the largest bond firms in the state of Texas. We are proof positive that you can have people of color and women and do exceptional work. We're 75% women and 70% people of color. I'm Gilbert Garcia. I want to be your mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Sheila Jackson-Lee.
For those of you who may not know me, I'm Sheila Jackson-Lee. I want to take this city into a great future. I love the East End. It's a wonderful neighborhood. Thank you, Francis, for having me at so many of your festivals. It's an eclectic area. I want to be the mayor that is creative in highlighting neighborhoods, creating jobs, building on our infrastructure, knowing about good health care, being the education mayor, and certainly putting this city on the international map of destinations. I have been an active participant in providing major funding to the Houston port. I've been out on the waters. I have been there during disasters. I've given them a lot of money for this man-made port for dredging. They have come to me as a go-to member of Congress. I am ready to take East End and its jobs, job training, job creation, and to highlight the job creators in this chamber. Thank you, Ray Gutierrez, for telling us about your business. We can do better. The infrastructure dollars will be in the cycle until 2025. You need more of those dollars working on streets, creating jobs, and building up this neighborhood. You are a destination neighborhood. As the mayor of the city of Houston, I'll make sure that the stories of our neighborhoods will be told. Sheila Jackson-Lee, the mayor for the future.
Thank you. Mr. Lee Kaplan.
I'm Lee Kaplan. I'm from the private sector. I'm running for mayor. This is a job that requires people who act with confidence, accountability, and integrity. It's a great city. We cannot afford to exclude anyone. I've talked to thousands of people along the way in my career as a trial lawyer and in my campaign. And I have figured out, as a trial lawyer and a campaigner, you've got to concentrate on what is most important. And what people have identified to me as their needs are crime and public safety, infrastructure, meaning both drainage and congestion, picking up the garbage across the city, and finally permitting so that people can buy housing. Those are the most important things, and the mayor has to hire the people who are best at handling those tasks. So I'm Lee Kaplan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. John Whitmire.
And I'm John Whitmire. I've been a public servant my entire adult life. In 1972, I was working my way through the University of Houston like so many of you, and I wanted to make a difference. While my friends were going to fraternities and ball games, I knocked doors and got elected to the legislature with Ben Reyes, Mickey Leland, Sofronie, and other great legislative leaders. In the 1980s, I represented East End as your senator. It was a very rewarding experience. I met civic, political, chamber leaders that want to make a difference. Through my friendship with Senator Gallegos, I was at the Gallegos Elementary ribbon cutting. I could go on and on the activities and the difference that we can make in the East End. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a great city, great people, but we have expectations from City Hall that are not being met. I look forward to discussing my vision and how I know we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitmire. We're going to get started with some of the questions that are important to this community and to our city. And we're going to begin talking a little bit about the petrochemical industry, which directly impacts the East End as well as the city of Houston. We'll start with Mr. Whitmire and then go down the line for this one. We'll change out the order. And the question is, Houston's petrochemical industry is a major contributor to economic prosperity of the city and of the state. And it provides some of the highest paying jobs for many of Houston's residents. As mayor, how will you support the continued growth and success of Houston's petrochemical industry?
Well, first we have to make it a priority. We have to realize what our future can be. Certainly as we work on environmental matters, carbon capture, renewables. We've got to remember that we also have an economy and we have jobs that we have to protect. I am known in Austin as someone that unites people, being very inclusive. So we must work with members of the chamber, we must work with organized labor, and certainly the residents. One of my first encounters as a senator, I worked with Kel Alvarado, who was a college student, and we organized the landfill area in case of an environmental hazard release. I know people coming together from across this city to protect our industry and also our environment.
Mr. Kaplan.
Well, I've been as far west as the Energy Corridor and beyond and talked with the management district people there. And I've been to the various facilities, refineries, and other chemical facilities in Houston. I think the private sector knows what their duties are. They're not always good about being transparent and accountable. And the fact is that the private sector, prodded by the mayor, has to demand competence, accountability, and integrity. And I think they do. And they're looking for new ways to do things. The profit motive is a strong incentive, and law enforcement is another. And I think we can assume that the energy industry doesn't need too much help from the city. What it needs is to simply be entrepreneurial and obey the law.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan.
During the BP oil spill, I came down from Washington and was part of and located at BP's command site as we were watching the impact and the scientists and the business operators of BP working to stymie or stop the oil spill. I was there with then all of the cabinet secretaries from transportation to interior to energy trying to deal with that. I know the vigorous aspect of the importance of the energy industry. I come out of the private sector, practice energy law. I know the business, I can speak the language. I work bipartisan. I know that we can do environment and renewables at the same time. As it relates to the port, as I told you, I've been at the cutting edge of providing dredging dollars, for the port over the years. I've been out and seen the crisis after the various hurricanes, and we got PPP dollars for all of those port companies that needed it. I know the business, I'm here to support it, but I'm also here to work in the environment as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Garcia.
I don't want to just continue to repeat, but at the end of the day, the industry is vital to the region, it's vital to America. It's about $600 billion to our economy here. Nationally, we have about 27 to 30 refineries. About 42% of all the oil comes really through here and through Houston and the port. I would let them continue to do what they're doing because I think they do it well. Clearly, we need to hold them accountable for any environmental issues, and we need to start working more aggressively to transition to the future, which is more green-related energy, as well as the city can do more in building codes to start migrating even some of our office buildings, public office buildings, and so forth, into more green-related technology. Thank you.
I've represented the port for the past 10 years, and the only refinery that we have actually in the city of Houston along the port is Valero. And Valero has been a good partner in regards to Manchester. But as the next mayor, what I want to do is work with all the municipalities along the port, Pasadena, La Porte, Baytown, to Deer Park, to make sure that we all work together. Also working with San Jacinto College and the Houston Community College to make sure that we have good paying jobs that are going to be there at the refineries. But with that said, I also want to make sure that we do have air monitors, so that way we can make sure that the air quality in the East End, in our communities, is clean and up to par. I know that the federal government recently, we received a grant in regards to air monitors. I've worked with Commissioner Adrian Garcia to place an air monitor at Hartman Park in Manchester, and as the next mayor, I will continue doing that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gallegos. This next question, we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure. So we're going to start with Mr. Kaplan and then go down the line as well. So the East End District has advocated and collaborated over the last 6 years to bring millions of dollars of new investments in the sidewalks, street repaving, street repairs, and now grade separation. So what is the commitment to continue these investments in the East End? There's two questions here. And will there continue to be a prioritizing of the East End's complete community's efforts?
Yes. My campaign headquarters is at 3302 Canal, and I have already waited 30 minutes for several trains. I can't believe that after all this time, no one from the federal government has managed to give us money for overpasses. That's just unbelievable. It was that way 25 years ago, it still is. So there's a commitment. Sidewalks are important, lighting is important, but it is absolutely unacceptable that you can't get anywhere in the East End without risking a 30-minute train blockage. I know that because I've tried to come to some campaign events later in the afternoon and had to detour around several times just to get there. That's unacceptable. And the federal dollars we get should go to that. I've talked at length with the rep from the Union Pacific because I left him a phone call the other day, which he graciously returned and said, we're working on that. You know, we can't do underpasses, most likely, because of plumes, but we can do overpasses. So that's something we need to pay attention to.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Go ahead. Julie.
I'll go back to the Port of Houston again that has provided over 1.54 million jobs. The tax commitment and revenue generating out of the port are billions of dollars. I was glad to be with the Secretary of Transportation to provide another grant. I will certainly enthusiastically support complete communities. And again, it is the question of asking, putting the plan forward. I'm glad that Union Pacific is here. I've worked with them extensively on the many problems that still exist dealing with the railroads. And so what a city will do is put together a plan with a sitting council member, our council members, the planning commission, to be able to put forward the CIP plan, the potential of overpass, the continued rebuild of the streets. As I said, East End is a destination neighborhood. Build it up economically for jobs, but also build it up as it relates to being an entertainment center. And so the combination of an entertainment center and a housing mecca, it's going to be a neighborhood on the move if I'm mayor of the city of Houston.
First, complete communities are a fantastic idea. The segregating 10 entities, 10 neighborhoods, whether it's second ward, third ward, whether it's Fort Bend, et cetera, is a great idea. And I know 10 million sort of seeded it, et cetera. But in my view, I really haven't seen the follow through, and I really haven't seen a lot of the activity or a lot of the things that have been talked about implemented. And if I'm wrong, I stand corrected. But at the end of the day, until you get a funding mechanism for those complete communities, you're going to continue to have essentially great input, but not a lot of follow through. And I'm not so sure it's been as additive as East End Chambers, Super Neighborhood Groups, and all the other activities that are out there. So I don't mean to be the only downer on this table. But at the end of the day, talking is great, sharing information is great, but we need a lot more action now.
The East End is the oldest part of the city, and here in the city of Houston. We have the oldest infrastructure in the city of Houston. Born and raised here in the East End as a council member for the last 10 years, I've been focusing on new streets, new sidewalks. We were able to receive the RAISE grant from the federal government. That's over $26 million. It's going to do Telephone Road from Lawndale all the way to 610. I was able to expand the Harrisburg TERS. They're going to redo Telephone Road from Lawndale to Lockwood. The Gulf Gate Church, we expanded that as well. They're going to do 610 all the way to Reveille. This is exciting news that we are able to redo Telephone Road and the sidewalks. These are things that I've been working on for the last 10 years here in the city of Houston. We were also able to do Winkler Road. If y'all recall, Winkler Road had a whole bunch of potholes. That has been resurfaced. We got new sidewalks on that street as well. So as the next mayor, I will work with these entities, the TERS, to make sure that we have the money at the table so we can do these projects.
Mr. Whitmire.
Infrastructure challenges is one of the reasons I'm in this race. Great cities can do better with their streets and their sidewalks and their water supply. Great cities do not boil water for 2 days this spring, leaving thousands of children being unsupervised because their mothers did not have noticed that there would be no school the next day. What we must do is have more collaboration. We've got to work from the city perspective closer with the county. In 2023, we did not have the luxury of having 2 park systems, 2 library systems, 2 animal shelters, neither of which works well. I know for a fact if we all sit down at the table, look and see what TERS and management districts can assume more responsibility. We must also have better cooperation with Austin. Because of the bad relationship between the city and the state of Texas, and the county and the state of Texas, we're not getting our city resources that we're entitled to from Austin. Harvard funding can be restored if we sit down at the table and bring people together. We pay the taxes, and we're entitled to those resources returned to Houston.
Well, we all know that Houston is a booming city. People are moving to Houston from all over the country, all over the world. And there are so many great business opportunities here, but it's also so important to support our small businesses and our businesses that are already here in Houston and in the East End specifically. So let's talk a little bit about workforce development. We see hiring signs everywhere. What are your plans as mayor for job readiness and workforce development? What are your thoughts, and how will you specifically address the issue of job readiness as mayor? We're going to start with Sheila Jackson-Lee.
Delighted. One of the reasons why Amazon chose the Virginia area was that the colleges in that area specifically redesigned their programmatic academic focuses on what Amazon might have needed. As I plan to be an education mayor, I'm excited about the multiple of institutions in our city. Houston Community College, Lone Star, the Southeast Campus on HCC, St. Thomas, Houston Baptist that has a new name, University of Houston, Downtown Central Campus, Victoria, Texas Southern University, St. Thomas. As the mayor, I will work with these institutions, and then a lot of training union programs, apprentice programs. We will gather a workforce training task force that begins to look at the modern day jobs. I mentioned the port, I mentioned the Army Corps of Engineers, just reminded the $250 million I helped bring about for dredging. I'm delighted that the RAISE Act was mentioned. Please, folks, remember that it's federal dollars. More can come. And frankly, in working with the state, it can be done. All of us can work with the state can work with us. Thank you.
I'm an eternal optimist, but nevertheless, I look at data, and the data respectfully suggests otherwise, which is companies are leaving many places, high tax areas, whether it's California and other areas, and they're moving to Texas. But they're going to Dallas, they're going to San Antonio, they're going to other cities. And when you look at the region, the population growth is going to the suburbs, whether it's Pearland, whether it's Missouri City, whether it's Humble, whether it's Katy. Houston, for the first time, is not growing. And we should look at that and be very concerned for the future. And that is why, if you talk about workforce, first, we got to support the new superintendent at HISD. He is there. He's the new superintendent. We should visit with him immediately. I would do so. We need to find out, what does he view success to be? And we should be part of that dialogue, and then we should get to success as fast as possible so we can get local control. Because it's the kids that we need to educate that are the workforce of the future, and I would focus on bringing more trades into the schools. Thank you.
HISD, 62% of the student body at HISD is Hispanic. Unfortunately, not everyone is going to be going to college. So I'm proud of the East End Management District, working with TXRX and also the East End Maker Hub that's there on navigation. They are providing the skills for those that do not go to college. We need to make sure that we do the training and we provide this information and the training in regards to the crafts, manufacturing, and what have you there at the East End Maker Hub. I was there with Mayor Turner when we did the groundbreaking, and I was there with Mayor Turner when we did the ribbon cutting. So as the next mayor, I also want to work with the Southeast Community College, San Jacinto College, and continue to work with the East End Management District and the East End Maker Hub to make sure that we continue to provide these technical skills for those that do not go to college.
Mr. Whitmire.
You create opportunity and jobs, and I'm excited about what we passed this spring, the entertainment district for downtown. The city brought me legislation which will freeze the state sales tax receipts for 3 miles in every direction of George Brown. We will receive any growth, and it'll be plowed back in to downtown Houston, the entertainment district, 3 miles in every direction, even including the arts and theater. But for the East End, it's going to bring a complete transformation. We will enlarge the George Brown. There will be an additional hotel, retail shops, green space after 45 and 59 goes underground. Several acres of green space for concerts and opportunities. There will be an east side entrance to the George Brown. It will completely give opportunity and jobs and retail business to the east side. So I'm excited. In fact, I invite the chamber to do an entire luncheon and look at the design work that will be revealed in September. It's exciting.
Well, we've identified the problem, but there's not really a solution that comes from the city. It comes from the people. How many of you think that HCC has 20,000 students? 30,000? Anybody have an idea? It's a staggering amount. It's 60,000 students every year. That's where our workforce is being trained. Not just by Rice and U of H and TSU or Lone Star, but it's all about learning work and life skills. That's what the city can affect. Many of the other universities or private universities are supported by the state, but the city can do something about HCC. That's the most important venue for us to create life skills and work skills for the people who are already here. And if they have jobs, the word will get out that this is a good place to live and work, and we'll reverse the downward trend in our population.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. Let's talk about a little bit transportation here. This is more of an open-ended question, but tell us your vision for transportation that is safe, that is efficient, that is affordable, non-disruptive to the neighborhoods and businesses, easy to navigate, and friendly to environment and Houstonians' health. Mr. Garcia.
Well, I was chairman of Metro under Anise Parker, and I inherited a Metro that was very challenging. There were lawsuits, they couldn't pay their bills, there was no transparency, and I could continue. And what did we do? We rolled up our sleeves, we made a list of all the things that we needed to do. We put the check registry online on the internet immediately, right in 2010. The city just did that. We put all the information, all the board meetings, all the committee meetings, everything online on the internet for the public to see. We redesigned the bus network for the first time in 100 years. Because it was the same bus network from the trolley car days. And we did it with over a year of input from the community. We finally got the full funding grant agreement, thank you Sheila Jackson Lee, and we ended up expanding light rail from 7 to 22 miles. And we did it from the moment we got it on time and under budget. I am a very pro-transit person. We'll work with the community and we'll get it right.
When I was president of the super neighborhood, Eastwood Lawndale Wayside Super Neighborhood, Metro was wanting to bring the Green Line into the East End, and they were looking at a 10-block massive overpass. We organized, we fought Metro for 5 years. Granted, we do have an overpass, but it's not as intrusive. It tells the history of the East End with the murals that are there on the overpass. It's well lit. We're proud of what we were able to do. So as the next mayor, what I will be doing is working with the community and working with Metro to make sure that the community has input on their community. We just recently went to the Metro board meeting with Eastwood residents. Metro was wanting to build an overpass there on Lockwood, which would have destroyed the character of Eastwood, which is one of our oldest neighborhoods. We went to the Metro board meeting. We said that this is not what we wanted, so they agreed to do an underpass just for the BRT. But what's important is that underpass will also provide access for emergency vehicles in case of a fire or someone's needing an ambulance.
Mr. Whitmer.
First of all, Metro needs to learn how to listen. In fact, every level of government does. My entire career, I've listened to residents. I've specialized in constituent service. We've got to keep traffic out of our neighborhoods and on the thoroughfares. I was recently pulled into a dispute at Navigation in Jensen. The residents were concerned about a roundabout that's actually going to go forward. The church, the restaurants were concerned. You do need crosswalks for people to access those facilities. No one was listening. The last public meeting was in 2009. We need night meetings. We need accessibility. We need to bring the community together and listen to the public. They're the ones that ultimately will live with the outcomes.
To me, the important thing is to appoint people to Metro, and the mayor gets 5 out of 9 appointees, who will actually ask the question, if we do this, will it really help? We can't have all true believers on Metro. The true believers made sure that we had plenty of specialized buses in the Galleria area. And even though the prediction was lowered from 19,000 a day to 14,000 riders a day, right now we have about 750 riders a day. You could literally walk up and down those buses and not trip over anybody's feet. That's the kind of thing that reflects people saying, we'll do this and they'll have to come. The truth is that Metro has to serve the less served communities and not the wealthier people who may want to shop at the Galleria. That just doesn't make any sense. That was $200 million. And I think that what Metro has to do is think hard about who needs to ride Metro to get to and from work. That's the most important question, and we have to appoint more skeptics to the Metro Board, which I will do.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan. I just want to say you're doing a great job staying in within that 1 minute time. We're getting through a lot of questions here. Good job. Okay, let's talk. You're next.
No.
Oh, that's right. Mr. Garcia went first. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Don't take that out of my time.
No, I'm so sorry. So sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay. You have to have a mayor that knows how to plan. It took me a decade to fight on the floor of the House to be able to get that full funding agreement, and I was a leader on bringing $900 million here for Metro. That's Jumpstart Metro. I believe Metro is one of the strongest agencies, and guess what? They listen to the mayor. The mayor appoints them. And so I'm not in any way daunted about what the Metro will do. They're a good partner for streets, sidewalks, and if the overpass doesn't work, you make it work for the neighborhood. But we also must listen to the neighborhood, whether or not they want circular buses in the neighborhood to move from one block to the next. They are putting in more bus shelters to make it more palatable. They are our partners. To be a world-class city and to be prepared for the soccer World Cup, if you will, we will have to have mobility. We're going to Hobby. We need to go to Bush. Use our mobility with federal dollars. We're getting ready to put more dollars in Southeast Houston and work with our colleges, which includes San Jacinto College as well.
Thank you. A little bit about our historical neighborhoods here. The East End has many older homes. Many individuals and families with limited incomes are paying 50% or more of their incomes in rent or living in homes that are hazardous to families. Is it desirable to keep historical neighborhoods as our Houston legacy and yet provide for new development? What is your position on affordable housing and the preservation of existing housing? Mr. Gallegos.
As a council member, I did support conservation districts. Unfortunately, Magnolia Park was not one of those neighborhoods initially. I spoke with the mayor and I said, Mayor, we need to include Magnolia Park into the conservation district. Granted, what's going to happen is the planning department is going to come to Magnolia Park, they're going to present the conservation district, ask the residents what they would like to preserve, what would they like to protect in regards to their homes, because we're losing our housing stock here in the East End. So therefore, the neighborhood will decide if they choose to be part of the conservation district. But the planning department will explain to them, I do support the conservation district. This is a way where we can protect our our housing stock here in the East End. We're losing a lot of our wooden frame homes, our shotgun homes that we used to have here in the East End to development. Not that I do not support development, but we also need to protect the history and the character of our neighborhood.
I think it's a balancing. You have to preserve your history as you're moving forward. Quite frankly, if we would eliminate some of the conflicts of interest in our housing authority, we would get a better outcome. You don't put affordable housing next to a super site, as we're currently watching in the East End. That's wrong, We've got to be concerned about gentrification. I can go to Denver Harbor and they want resources, they want infrastructure. And what's the city do? Allow developers to put a 9-hole golf course right there along Buffalo Bow. We've got to respond to our communities and bring people together and listen and then go forward.
I think conservation districts are an idea whose time has come and perhaps gone. They're okay on a case-by-case basis, but as I mentioned at the very beginning, competence, accountability, and integrity are important. And you can't just say, we're going to preserve all the neighborhoods, and then simultaneously say we're going to have more development. I do not think conservation districts are the answer for the future of the East End or necessarily other parts of the city. That's dangerous. You know, there are many Latino owners of homes who suddenly find themselves in a conservation district where they're limited in what they can do and how they can sell their properties. We already have rules about what neighborhoods have to look like. And if we're going to make changes, they should not be unilateral and not, as conservation districts often are, based on 51% instead of the 80 or more percent that's required for zoning changes. That's dangerous. We're not smart enough at the city to know how every neighborhood should develop, and we have to think about that.
You're next, yes. I'm happy to repeat the question, by the way, if you need it. Would you like me to? I can. Okay. For anybody.
I'm a big supporter of conservation districts. Again, it's about planning. It's about a mayor that leads, takes the city into the future. In this neighborhood, development can occur. It's the type of development that should occur. I'm looking at the revenue that is generated by the port, 439 billion in the state and 900 plus billion across the nation. The port can be a good neighbor. Believe it or not, the port can collaborate in helping to build housing even for its employees. Has anyone approached the port to even think about that and the revenues that they gain? In addition, we're still a partner to the Housing and Urban Development. Who knows the federal government better than I do? GLO can do more. They're here in the room. I know they know that I've worked with them. I'd like Commissioner to rethink her ideas about where that $4 billion that we designated for Harris County and Houston. I believe that we can have communities, we can have development, and we can preserve our older housing. I'm looking at plans to do so. As the mayor for the future, I will do so.
On affordable housing, very quickly, I'm experimenting myself and building some affordable housing in a city gas area of town. The biggest obstacle has been the permitting, but I've got to go back to Metro to correct the record. And it's important because, first of all, we do listen at Metro. I'm not there anymore, but we did. That's why we built the whole bus rapid transit in the first place. What did we listen to? The voters. The voters voted for transit on that project. Being mayor doesn't mean to be a dictator and overrule the will of the voters. It means to implement the will of the voters, and that's what we did. And it's not for people who live there, it's for the workers who live farther west, and if we can get transit right to get to the transit centers, and then they can go to work. We can't help that the pandemic shut down a lot of workers there. We can't help that people don't feel safe shopping in that area anymore, but it will come back. And the most important thing of all, people have been depriving Metro of the resources it should have had from the get-go. And that is why the system is incomplete. We should demand better. It will not really realize the numbers and potential until the system is complete to connect the rail line with the bus rapid transit. We should demand more, and we need to get Metro the funding it needs rather than continue to bash it when there are good people making Houston move every day.
Francis, do we have time for another question? Yes? Okay. I know we talked a little bit about infrastructure, and we're going to talk a little bit more about one of the top concerns for specifically the East End community, which is port expansion and railroad blocking. And with that, I want to ask, once Project 11, the deepening and widening of the Houston Ship Channel, is complete, we expect to see an increase in business with more trucks on the roads. So what are your plans to prepare the roads, railroad crossings in the community in anticipation for the increased traffic? Begin with you, Mr. Whitmer.
Well, first of all, we have to talk about it. You're not going to fix a problem in government unless you recognize that you have a problem. So I think we, once again, have to bring all the stakeholders together, certainly with our county partners, and certainly the state of Texas. Listen, I know from the day that I'm in office, if I'm fortunate to get there, I can repair the damage between Houston and Austin. We had a $32 billion surplus at the state due to oil prices and increase in sales tax. Other communities, other major cities got their share. Houston, leadership, and Austin do not talk. They do not sit down at the table. They don't like each other. I don't care whether you like someone or not. If they control the purse strings, you've got to sit down and talk with them. County, likewise. So if we'll come together, look at our mobility needs, get our share of state resources through TxDOT, work with the county to not to duplicate services, I know we can do better. We can't afford not to. Whether you get along with someone or not, at the election period, you leave the politics out in the hall, sit down and represent your constituents. And that's how we'll solve so many of the problems that we're discussing today.
The starting point is our own representatives. Really, we know what the problems are, but we've got legislators in Houston who are so proud that we don't have any property taxes, or that we have less of them. We know what Houston needs. They know what Houston needs. And our hollering about it hadn't done us much good. I mean, let's face it. There are voters out there who think that Houston is overfed, overpaid, and should be ignored. It's going to be up to the mayors to do the job, because I don't believe the legislature has the least bit of interest in taking care of us. And all we can do is forge ahead, not bother to criticize them, but just pave our own path until the private sector and the business community tells the very radical legislators who are out there and hate Houston to knock it off. This is killing the city, and you're killing the goose that lays the golden egg, including our port and our roads and our people. Nothing's going to change. So we all know what we need to do, but we're not the people who can make that happen all by ourselves. And the leadership can't do it. It's got to be the business community that gets mad enough to tell them to knock it off.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan.
Again, to my East End neighbors, what do you need in a mayor? You need someone who has a worldview of what pieces you put together to make things work. I-45 was drowning out many communities, even out in this direction. What did I do? Take the leadership of beginning to speak the language of all of the parties. We have to resolve these issues in the neighborhood. We have to listen to those impacted in historic neighborhoods. That's transportation. We've got to get TxDOT to know that it is not always, as much money as they have, their way or the highway. We work with the U.S. Department of Transportation. They did not come in to end the project. They came in to make the project better. That's what we did. In transportation and roads and the railroad, it all goes back to the federal government. I will work with TxDOT. When you work with them and sit down, they listen and understand, because the money train comes from the federal government. And as well, they know that they want to get the job done. I believe we can solve these problems with Metro, TxDOT, U.S. Department of Transportation, and a smart mayor that'll bring them all together. Thank you very much.
I'm embarrassed to say, would you repeat the question?
Do not be embarrassed. There have been a lot of topics we're covering. I am happy to repeat it for anybody.
I apologize.
Okay, now let me remind myself where I am. Okay, we're talking about roads and railroads. And so once Project 11 is complete, we expect to see an increase in business and more trucks on the roads. What are your plans to prepare the roads and railroad crossings in anticipation for the increased traffic?
Sure. On Project 11, I know it's a very quick timeline. The amount of revenue and the amount of activity it's going to generate is going to be staggering. I think it's wonderful that Union Pacific is here. I think it's wonderful that they participate. I've known Richard a long time. I know they've identified roughly 25 crossings that need to be priority crossings, but it's time for action. It's time to get together to figure out what can we do, because, as Lee said, and I totally agree, it's just unacceptable to be at a railroad crossing for 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. It wouldn't be happening if it were in other neighborhoods, so it shouldn't be happening here. One more thing, that bus rapid transit system, That was an Uptown project. It was paid for and designed by Uptown, paid for by Uptown TERS. It was partially funded by TxDOT and partially funded by HGAC. I just think people need to know more of the information before they bring judgment. Thank you.
It's not anticipated, it's happening. The trains are longer. There's more freight on those trains of containers. They're blocking our crossings. I went to Washington, D.C. last year with Commissioner Rodney Ellis. We opposed the merger of Canada Pacific Railroad with Kansas City. They say it would not impact the East End, but there's 8 more trains that will be coming on a daily basis into the Houston area. I also worked with the mayor's office. We were able to be part of the smart city technology, where we have monitors now at certain intersections or crossings, where we're monitoring Union Pacific and other railroads that are blocking these crossings. We now know how long those trains are there. Believe it or not, residents were complaining there on Lockwood that a train was there for 7 hours. Can you imagine living next to the railroad track with the bells sounding ding, 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 ding for 7 hours? So now we have that technology. We also have a camera at Fire Station 18, so that way they don't get stopped when they're going to a call. They have a TV monitor in their station, and we're going to expand that to other fire stations as well.
Thank you, Mr. Gallegos. I think that's all we have time for today. I want to thank all our candidates. A round of applause, please, for all of our candidates. I'm sure we'll be hearing much more of them in the coming weeks and months, and I want to thank you for being an incredible audience. Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask Francis. Oh, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. See you tonight.
Yes, please help me give a big round of applause for our moderator, Daniella Guzman. Thank you so much. Before I let everyone leave, I just wanted to thank everybody for being here today. We invite you to attend our next upcoming events, our East End Means Business on Tuesday, September 19th, and our annual Port Appreciation Day on Thursday, October 19th. Really quickly today would not be possible without our staff, so I want to give Diana, Christina, and Carmen, and all the volunteers who helped make today possible. And please make sure to thank all the staff here at the Marriott South Mojave Airport. And then make sure that you stop by the business expos and support local. Drop off or just leave it on the table, your name tag, so we can recycle. And that is all. We also have a token of appreciation for our panelists. Ray, if you want to come up and help me do that. The meeting has been adjourned. Thank you all so very much. Have a great day. We'll see you at the next event.